the Ritz Carlton in Georgetown. And so I went there to be a manager in operations for the Ritz Carlton in Georgetown. So that way, I could have that well-rounded experience. And then after a bit of time there, I decided, I've been working nonstop since I was 18. So at the time I was 29, and I took 1 year off and just traveled. And so
you traveled the entire world.
I took a year off and traveled the world. I thought, let me get this out of my system. And then when I came back, I went to the Beverly Hilton in Los Angeles, where I was senior sales manager. Sorry?
Before you go forward, I got to mention, I followed your trek throughout the world. You were always posting pictures and updating everybody where you were this week, and it was fascinating. It would have been great if we had the podcast back then, because we could have had you get a little review on where you were.
Oh yeah.
And I think you met some pretty interesting people on that trip, like somebody who was a hotel big.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So we would do everything from staying in really grungy places in Thailand where we'd have a frog that lived in our shower, or we would, and randomly would have friends that, since we're in the hospitality industry, I traveled with a friend of mine, and we would have friends randomly call and say, hey, I've got you put up at the Conrad in Bali, so go stay there for 2 nights. So we would go from like the worst conditions to the best conditions. And I think, Scott, one of the example you're giving is we were in Singapore, and we happened to have one of those fortunate times where we were put up in the Grand Hyatt in Singapore, and we were on the club level. So here we were with traveling on a $0 budget, and we're sitting in club, and I met, I want to say his name was Gordon Stevenson, if I can recall off the top of my head, but he started Hyatt International, and yeah, is that right? Okay. And
yeah, we're going to look him up.
Okay, hopefully that's the right. I'm totally recalling from 5 years ago with that one conversation. But we stayed up all night talking with him and having hilarious stories about how he was, building the Hyatt brand all over the world and getting into Asia where, now everyone's there. But at first he was one of the first pioneers to start opening Hyatts